In the enveloping darkness of the small residential complex in Sector S, a shadowy figure moved slowly and heavily towards the sole staircase. That shadow belonged to Alex, a notorious thug in the neighborhood. Everyone who knew him shook their heads in exasperation. He feared no one but his mother, for he was always afraid of making her sad. So, no matter what kind of unsavory character he was outside, at home he always played the role of a filial son. Indeed, his mother would scold him whenever he made a mistake, berating him like a child. When her temper flared, the neighbors were accustomed to the mother and son arguing late into the night. Sometimes his mother would scold him all night until morning. Unable to bear it, the neighbors would call the police to restore peace to the complex. But after only a few days, everything would return to how it was, as his mother's raspy, almost masculine voice would begin to scold him again. Alex had once been married. His wife, Lone, was a woman known for her wild ways in Hanoi. Captivated by his style and face, she found herself pregnant with his child after a few months. His family barely managed to scrape together enough money for a wedding before the bride's belly grew too large for a wedding dress. His life became more miserable as his wife gave birth and pressure mounted on him. He felt weary and despondent, wanting to end it all. Yet, each time he looked at his tiny child, he found the urge to escape himself replaced by the responsibility of a father and a man in the family. With a criminal record, he couldn't find work in respectable places. He was taken in by an organization filled with unsavory characters, and from there his reputation grew. Now he was the leader of these lowlifes at his workplace. The money he earned was different from others. He earned it with his blood, his sweat, and his very life. Because money was so hard won for him, he was careful with it, spending only on what was truly necessary for himself and his child. But his wife, Lone, was not like that. She often used his money for personal indulgences rather than for their young child. Lone was 23, still at an age where she craved fun and lacked maturity. She couldn't consistently stay home to care for the child, often making excuses to push the responsibility onto Alex's mother. Of course, his mother, Sarah, never refused to care for her grandchild. Even if she disliked her daughter-in-law and the child's father, the little one in her arms was innocent. Alex would leave for work before dawn and not return until late at night. His tattered clothes were often stained with blood, soaked from fights with others. His white shirt was discolored. He opened the door softly, not wanting to wake his child, who would wail loudly at any sound. He also didn't want his mother to see him in such a state, which would lead to her scolding him, perhaps even hitting him with her stick. Afterward, she would sit alone in her dark room and weep. One day, his wife, Lone, left the house early in the morning and never returned. She abandoned their 9-month-old child to him, as if it were a priceless gift that many families only dreamed of. But for Alex, this child was a burden. His mother was now too old to work, and could only help him with one thing: keeping the baby from crying and feeding it 4 times a day. As much as his mother hated Alex, she loved his child 10, even 1,000 times more. That night, Alex returned home, looking utterly wretched. Under the moonlight, his tired face was wet with tears. He was crying, blaming himself for his failures, for losing everything. He no longer had a job. Luckily, he had escaped a police sweep and wouldn't go to jail, leaving his elderly mother and young child alone. That was already too great a gift from God. "My son," he whispered, sitting beside the child. He began to cry silently, like a child, a muffled sob that only he could hear. He sat still until he heard his mother's voice. On a hot, muggy day, her old illness had flared up again, making her gasp and cough frequently in the night. He stood up and walked to the half-open door. "Mother, how are you feeling? Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" His question warmed his mother's heart, even though she could barely breathe, each breath a struggle. There were times she thought she was dying, but death never came. Perhaps she had to live to be his motivation, to make him try again from the beginning. "I'm fine, but have you eaten anything?" Despite her illness, her first words, weak and fragile, were to ask if he had eaten. His mother's question brought a lump to his throat, as if an invisible hand was squeezing it tight, preventing him from answering. After a long silence, he managed to say, "Not yet. There's rice in the kitchen. Go in and eat." He stood outside her room for a few more minutes, waiting for her coughing to subside. Only then did he go into the kitchen, take out the rice and food, and sit down at the table. He ate and thought about his life. Years ago, when his father was alive, he had told him, in this life, morality must come first. Before you do anything, remember never to act against your conscience. But Alex had failed to follow his father's advice. Had society, with its countless challenges, changed his thoughts and his very being? Or had he simply taken the wrong path? After his simple meal, consisting only of fried tofu, a bowl of water spinach soup, and a few pieces of braised fish, he found it incredibly delicious. Simply put, nothing compared to his mother's cooking. He then sat down to clean the still bleeding wounds on his dark, scarlet body. He winced in pain with each touch of his various injuries. He should have gotten stitches, but he feared the expense of going to the hospital. He had grown accustomed to stitching his own wounds. After he finished, he lay down and stared at the ceiling. This house, he thought, was the happiest place during his father's lifetime. He wondered if his father was still alive now, his life wouldn't be so cruel. The next morning, as he awoke, the new day sun streamed directly onto his bed. Hearing sounds outside, his mother didn't call him. She was holding the baby in one arm and sweeping the floor with the other. Every now and then, she would hum her scolding songs, songs that could make the neighbors nervous, yet when they heard her sing, they would stop to listen. Nearing the end of her life's journey, his mother had only truly known happiness when his father was alive. After her husband's death, she had raised Alex alone. She had raised him, but she couldn't mold him into a good son. She had given birth to him, but his character was God-given. "Son, take your nephew outside for a walk. It's cool." His mother nodded, a hint of sadness in her eyes as she noticed new scars on Alex's body. It pained her greatly, but she had seen so many people die that she had grown accustomed to it. "What can you do? Can't you stop fighting with people? Look at your son. He's so young. What if something happened to you? How would he live?" Alex said nothing, only silently acknowledging that his mother was right. If he died, how would his son survive? He knew this. Last night, He had thought about it too, and he had decided that if possible, he would find a mother for his little boy. One day, Alex brought home a girl, Lily, who was only a few years younger than his mother. She was gentle, well-mannered, and polite. His mother loved her dearly. If Lily ever wanted anything to eat, his mother would personally cook it for her. Since Alex brought Lily home, laughter had returned to the house. Lily hade en säng and chance and jou out. One October night, Alex returned home after finishing work at a bar, where he was parking lot security. As he approached the apartment complex where he lived, a sight made him tremble. His mother's mouth hung open, tears streaming down her face. What he saw was a hellish inferno, consuming everything he had. His mother, the young woman who had just appeared in his life, and especially his beloved child. All of them were being devoured by the flames. The fire quickly spread throughout the complex, trapping people in the blaze. Those who survived, like Alex, were lucky not to have been home. When the fire was finally extinguished, all that remained was desolation and charred bodies. Cries of sorrow echoed ceaselessly. It was too great a loss for those who remained. Alex was devastated as he knelt before the graves of 3 people. He hadn't been able to repay his mother's kindness, hadn't brought happiness to Lily, and hadn't been able to raise his precious child. That fire had taken everything from him, but it had also ignited a smoldering, terrifying fire within him, many times more potent. The fire burning in his mind was a fire from hell, a fire to punish those he deemed worthy of death. His first act of retribution occurred in a small house not far from the city center. That house belonged to a scoundrel, a man Alex believed deserved to die. During a casual visit, Alex had witnessed numerous times how this wretched man treated his own father terribly. The old man, over 80, was frail, yet his son, whom he had raised his whole life, hoping for filial piety in his old age, treated him with such cruelty. How could Alex not feel heartache? He waited for the son to leave, then entered the yard through the gate. His gaze made the large dog, fierce like a leopard, sit still and hold its breath, despite its usual aggressive nature. "Who are you?" "Are you looking for the son?" the old father asked. Alex nodded and handed him some money. He was now a man of means, not a pauper, like when his mother and wife were alive. "Tomorrow, I don't know what will happen. But you must try to live well with this money," Alex said, then stood up and left, leaving the old man staring after him, still trying to comprehend what had just happened. The next day, the remaining villagers witnessed a truly haunting sight. A man ablaze, running frantically down the dark dirt road. Agonized screams emanated from the mouth of the man Alex had just set on fire, believing he didn't deserve to live. The fire at the apartment complex in Sector S years ago had stripped Alex of all will to live. He hadn't questioned it, but now that same fire forged a demon within him, and he wouldn't stop until that demon possessing him was utterly destroyed. The fiery death of the man, whom the entire village despised, evoked 2 contrasting emotions. Those who hated him believed the scoundrel had been punished by heaven for his many wicked deeds. But the superstitious ones thought the village was being tormented by evil spirits. And this idea made Alex want to stay here, to purify and punish those he deemed worthy of death. He wouldn't stop until there was no evil person left in this place but himself. He was the most wicked among the wicked. The demon within him wanted him to be that way. Alex then asked the villagers and found his way to Mrs. Thoa's house. She was a woman who hadn't married but had an adopted daughter, Zoe, 18 years old, with a beautiful and gentle face. Alex stood outside the gate, looking in. Zoe turned her face inward and called, "Mom, who's outside?" Mrs. Thoa, who was folding clothes, stopped and turned to the door. "Who is it?" Alex stepped inside, looking at the two with the kindest eyes he could muster. "Excuse me, I asked around the village and they said you have a vacant house. I'd like to ask if it's available for rent." Mrs. Thoa hadn't expected someone to rent her dilapidated little house so soon. She stood up cheerfully, reached for a key, and approached Alex. "You really want to rent it?" "Yes." "How much a month?" "I'll pay in full," Alex said. Mrs. Thoa scrutinized him. Though his face seemed rough, his attire made her think he was a decent person. This was a grave error in her life, trusting a stranger so hastily. But in this remote village, she was no different from other dirt-poor, hard-working people. She lived simply and honestly, having encountered many people to understand human nature. "I've never rented it before. How much do you think is reasonable per month? Just say so, and if it's fair, I'll rent it to you." "But what do you do? Are you planning to live and work here?" "Yes, I'll live and work here." Mrs. Thoa nodded, then invited Alex to inspect her house. Afterward, she invited him to sit at the small table where she usually chatted with her neighbors. Alex sat down, his eyes lingering on Zoe, her adopted daughter. He smiled and nodded a greeting to the girl, who reciprocated with a hello. "Sir," he had already observed the house and decided on a price before making the offer. "Then let's talk about the rent," Mrs. Thoe said. Alex replied decisively, "I'll pay you 1 million V&D a month. Is that acceptable? I'll pay for electricity and water according to the state price. If you agree, thank you." The woman, who had spent her life toiling under the sun and rain, was overjoyed to hear he wanted to rent her small, run-down house at an unexpected price. She nodded immediately and handed him the key. Alex took the key happily, then pulled money from his pocket and placed it before her. He stood up and promised to return in 3 days. The villagers saw Alex return with a small truck, and under their curious gazes he felt respected, as they knew nothing of his past. He told the truck driver to park in the vacant lot next to Mrs. Thoa's small house, saying he would move his belongings in and settle down. He looked around. The village women had cleaned the house thoroughly. He was very pleased. The truck driver and Alex began to move his belongings inside. Alex had a hidden talent. He painted beautifully. Even after many years without holding a brush, whenever he picked one up, everything he painted came to life with unusual ease. He opened an art gallery in the small house he rented. His paintings, with their unusual subjects, gradually gained admirers. Wealthy villagers flocked to buy his paintings, praising him endlessly. The prices of his paintings weren't high, but their value far exceeded expectations. They bought his paintings to display as priceless artifacts. For the content of his art always hinted at the demon within him. But there was a secret he kept. He only sold to the wealthy, but especially the extremely cruel and wicked. Buying his paintings was, in fact, bringing a deadly harbinger of doom into their homes. The first person to buy his painting was Elder Howe, the wealthiest and most wicked man in the village. He had 2 wives. The elder one had borne him 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. The younger wife had not yet had any children, and it was rumored throughout the village that she was infertile. Of course, Elder Howe would sooner or later abandon her, as he wouldn't spend money on a barren woman. He hung Alex's first painting in the center of his living room, above his rare wooden furniture set. The painting's subject was quite peculiar. It depicted the scene after Alex had punished Elder Howe for his wickedness, a way of acting on behalf of heaven. One beautiful day, Elder Howe sent his wives and children to their maternal relative. That night, Elder Howe was alone at home. Inside and out, it was silent and still. He lay in bed, his breathing steady, when he suddenly opened his eye. All he heard was the whooshing of wind outside. The wind was strong tonight, but there was no rain. The weather was hot and muggy, uncomfortable. Elder Howe heard a light tapping sound coming from outside. He sat up, looked out, and held his breath, waiting. Could a thief have broken in? The thought made him afraid. The rich man valued his life. He wasn't afraid of losing money, but he feared that a reckless thief might accidentally harm him. In the darkness, from where he sat, Elder Howe saw 2 small, flickering flames in the gloomy space. They came closer and closer, but then he shrieked in terror as he recognized a tall, shadowy figure standing behind him. Before he could react, several bursts of flame shot from the shadow's hand, directed at Elder Howe. From the 2 small flames burning on a wooden stick, the stick dropped, and the fire quickly spread to the flammable objects around them, growing larger and larger. Now, Elder Howe clearly saw who the shadowy figure was. It was Alex, the man who had sold him the painting hanging on the wall. Only now did he truly grasp the painting's meaning. It depicted the moment of your death. You're a demon, not a man. Elder Howe stammered these words, trembling, before Alex turned and left, abandoning him to be consumed by the flames. Neighbors saw the fire and rushed over, everyone pitching in to put it out. But the wind was strong that night, fanning the flames higher. Extinguishing the fire was no easy task. By the time it was put out, the residence of another wealthy man in the village was nothing but a desolate ruin, its walls charred black. Another person had died by fire. The village buzzed with talk of spirits and demons. Some said the gods were angry and delivering punishment. Others claimed the village was afflicted by a great misfortune, tormented by evil spirits. But these rumors didn't affect Alex, for no one suspected him. In their eyes, he was just a talented artist, busy with his unfinished paintings. Alex had just reclaimed his first painting. After selling all his art, the painting he sold to Elder Howe was the first piece in the grand tapestry of his revenge. A plan he was implementing to reclaim what he felt was due from those he deemed worthy of death. The second painting was at Mrs. Newyett's house, a woman whose character made her despised by all. No one wanted to come near her, for they both feared and hated her. "Van, get me some water, quickly. What are you doing?" "Must I wait?" "Van the maid, heard Mrs. Henriette's loud call, dropped her work in the kitchen, and hurried up. "Yes, ma'am? You ask if I called you? I told you to get me water a while ago. Are you going to bring it or not? If not, I'll find someone else." Hearing Mrs. Henriette, Van was startled. She apologized, then quickly left. A moment later, she returned with a glass of water in her hand. Mrs. Henriette took the glass, sipping it, then said, "I have to go out. Stay home and keep an eye on the house. Understood? If you're lazy and I come back to a dirty house, you'll be in trouble." "Yes, yes, ma'am," Van nodded, then returned to her chores, feeling a sense of relief. Tomorrow, Mrs. Henriette wouldn't be home, so Van's spirits were lighter. Whenever Mrs. Henriette was away, Van had a day of freedom. As usual, Mrs. Henriette woke up early, before dawn. Going out into the yard in her pajamas, she saw a dark figure standing motionless across the street. The figure was a man, but it was too dark for Mrs. Henriette to make out who he was. "Who's this madman standing there so early in the morning?" Mrs. Henriette muttered to herself. With her notoriously sharp tongue and aggressive nature, she had never known fear. She walked closer, standing abreast of the dark figure, who remained still, observing her with two red demonic eyes in the darkness. Mrs. Henriette spoke up, trying to drive him away, but the dark figure remained rooted to the spot. "Is there anyone in this village who doesn't fear me?" She wondered, a strange thought. As Mrs. Henriette opened her gate, the dark figure, previously still, suddenly moved with terrifying speed, heading straight for her. Before Mrs. Henriette could utter a sound, the dark figure's rough hand quickly clamped over her aggressive mouth. Mrs. Henriette could only make muffled sounds. Two flickering flames circled around Mrs. Henriette before her horrified eyes. The demon within Alex had now awakened. But he could no longer control the demon of hatred and death inside him. Mrs. Henriette's body burst into flames. Her agonizing screams in Alex's head woke all the neighbors, who rushed to Mrs. Henriette's house. They witnessed the event in stunned disbelief. Another person had died, consumed by fire. The villagers asserted that the gods and divine spirits were punishing the wicked, for all those who died by fire had committed numerous evil deeds in the village. The local police also arrived at the scene. They meticulously examined it, but found no unusual clues. Just as with Elder Howe, the police concluded that Mrs. Henriette had set herself on fire. Rumors of spiritual matters grew even more widespread. These rumors, though unconfirmed, reached the ears of many wicked people in the village, making them feel a pang of fear, afraid of death. One by one, they gathered their possessions and fled. Alex's art gallery prospered, far beyond his own expectations. He had become wealthy. Every painting he created sold out immediately. Art buyers from surrounding villages flocked to his gallery, too numerous to count. This thriving business, giving him a more comfortable life, gradually made him forget his sinful past. Since he returned, the village had become more peaceful, for the demon within him had helped eliminate the truly wicked. His success in painting and selling art also provided Mrs. Stower's family with additional income from the monthly rent he paid. Initially, he rented for 1 million VND, but now, earning money more easily, he decided to increase the rent to help Mrs. Toa and her daughter's income. Years passed. 3 autumns had come and gone. Tui, Mrs. Toa's adopted daughter, had grown into a beautiful young woman. But the older Tui got, the more she changed, in a direction opposite to her adoptive mother's wishes. Tui, often associated with delinquent village boys, causing Mrs. Toa no small amount of worry. Some nights, Tui wouldn't come home, leaving Mrs. Toa to lose sleep from anxiety. But Mrs. Toa didn't know that Alex worried about Tui even more than she did, for at some point he had developed a special affection for the girl that crossed the boundaries of morality. Mrs. Toa would never realize that her adopted daughter was now in the gaze of a murderer. The fire that consumed her life was the fire Alex loved, sending a wave of satisfaction through him. One night, Tui returned home heavily drunk. Her boyfriends drove her back on a brand new motorcycle. As the motorcycle stopped at the gate, she staggered out and moved clumsily to open the house door. In the small house next door, Alex's red eyes watched the young people in the darkness. A voice echoed in his head. She deserves to die. Kill her. The demon's voice ceaselessly reverberated in Alex's mind. Tui, still fumbling at the lock, never heard Alex approaching. He swung an iron rod, striking her fiercely from behind. Tui had no time to react. She took a fatal blow and collapsed, dying instantly. Alex dragged her body into the small house, stripped off all her clothes, then sat and stared at the corpse with a lustful gaze. The demon's voice continued to echo in his head, urging him. Alex stood, took a knife in his hand, and repeatedly struck the body. He had dismembered her, carving her body into pieces. Now, he put the parts into bags and carried them to a deserted field surrounded by dense vegetation. Mrs. Toa, worried about her daughter not returning home, organized the villagers to search everywhere. On the 3rd day, their search yielded a result. The villagers discovered a hole containing several partially burned black bundles. They immediately ran back to report the news. Upon hearing it, Mrs. Toa rushed to the scene. She froze in horror, then collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, when she saw that one of the black bundles contained her daughter's head. Alex didn't remember what he had done to Thoy that night. When he was controlled by the demon, he would forget everything he had done upon waking. Many villagers now considered Alex a bad omen, believing that his presence in the village had brought about numerous mysterious deaths. But these were mere suspicions, without proof. Thus, he continued to live freely outside the law, even as the local police diligently hunted for the culprit behind the murder and dismemberment. Those who thought he was a bad omen avoided him. The rest didn't care, for who would imagine that inside him was a demon waiting to take more lives? They still came to admire the art he painted. Every painting he created became a harbinger of a coming catastrophe. The early paintings, born from a demonic soul, depicted fresh blood and death. Yet, wealthy, sophisticated people found his paintings profound, beautiful, and unique. They paid for his art, some even a lot of money, to possess his unique works. Tui's funeral at Mrs. Toa's house lasted 3 days after she completed the procedures to claim her daughter's incomplete remains. A somber and sorrowful atmosphere hung over the village. Alex didn't paint during his 3 days. No one knew where he went only that he returned after Mrs. Thoa had buried her daughter, carrying many items purchased from the city. One beautiful day, he opened his gallery early. The number of people who came to see and buy his new paintings was much lower than before. He didn't care, for selling just one painting was enough to sustain him for half a month. He sat looking out at the road, as was his habit. He saw an old man standing across the street, staring intently at him. The old man's gaze made him feel uneasy. Without reacting to the old man's stare, he stood up, picked up a broom, and swept fallen leaves from his doorstep, avoiding the old man's strange gaze. After a moment, he looked across the street again. But the old man was gone. He leaned the broom by the door and sat down. He hadn't sold a single painting all morning. He stood up, stretched, closed the door, and walked to the market to buy ingredients for dinner. He walked along the road from his house to the market, under the suspicious glances of the villagers. Most of them avoided him, not daring to come close, because he was now associated with bad luck. All the wealthy villagers who had died suddenly had previously interacted with him. Initially, the villagers mistakenly believed that divine spirits had appeared to punish the wicked. But now, with another sudden, mysterious death, Mrs. Thoa's adopted daughter, they were certain he was involved. They just lacked proof. Of course, he knew this from their eyes, but he didn't care, for his life had been filled with too much injustice. Another slight wouldn't bother him. "Buy a duck, young man. Today's ducks are delicious." As Alex approached the duck stall, the vendor cheerfully called out to him. He looked at the prepared ducks hanging there, then nodded and asked for one. "That'll be 185,000 VND, the vendor said. He paid. The vendor took the duck, then walked to the vegetable stall, and a few more stalls before returning home with enough groceries for the whole week. When he arrived home, he saw the old man again, standing in the same spot, looking at Mrs. Thoa's small house that Alex was renting. Who is this old man? Why does he keep staring at my house? Alex wondered, curious to know the reason for his presence. He walked over quickly. "Excuse me, sir. Who are you looking for, standing here and looking at my house?" "I just passed by and noticed something unusual about this small house. I stopped to observe. Nothing serious, though." "Sorry if I bothered you, young man," the old man said. "Unusual? What's unusual about it? Please tell me, sir." The old man suddenly turned to look at the small house with a surprised expression. He mumbled, "How strange. Why is it like this? Am I old and confused? What do you mean, sir? Please, answer my question. What exactly is unusual about this house?" "Oh, I was mistaken. It's not the small house you're renting that's unusual. It's you. You're the one who's not normal," the old man said. Alex breathed a sigh of relief that Mrs. Thoa's house wasn't abnormal, as the old man had implied. But when the old man said Alex was the abnormal one, he flew into a rage. He angrily told the old man to leave, ceaselessly chasing him away. "You're the abnormal one," Alex shouted, then turned his back and walked away, leaving the old man behind. The old man just sighed and turned to leave. Alex watched until the old man turned onto the small dirt path next to the ancient banyan tree. Only then did he go home. Since her adopted daughter's death, Mrs. Thoa rarely left the house. She usually kept the doors closed, only going out if absolutely necessary. and then often for several days. Alex had asked her a few times, but she wouldn't say. He had no idea that he was the murderer. The villagers and police suspect. The old man, Master Quang, had already sensed that an evil power was manipulating and controlling Alex. But Alex himself couldn't feel that he had been turned into a tool for murder. Whenever the demon killed someone, Alex was completely unaware of what he had done. And upon waking, he had no memory of it. The next morning, Alex saw the old man from the previous day talking to Mrs. Thor. He noticed their serious expressions. Occasionally, he saw them pause and turn to look at his small house. He stood silently, watching them talk through a gap in the window pane until the old man turned and left. Only then did Alex pretend to have just woken up. He opened his door and stepped out. Mrs. Thor turned back into her house, not giving him a glance. Her disapproving look made him uncomfortable, but he didn't approach her. He also turned and went back inside. Afterward, he left his house to go to the market for some missing supplies before starting to paint. Today, he had to complete a large canvas painting for a client. Before he had time to line up his goods, as he was approaching his house, just a few tens of meters away, he saw 2 police officers standing at his door. He was startled, not understanding why the police were looking for him. He thought and thought, but nothing came to mind. He took a deep breath, filling his chest, then slowly exhaled, calming himself. He thought he hadn't done anything wrong, so there was nothing to fear. He continued walking towards his door, where the 2 police officers stood. As he approached, one of them greeted him and got straight to the point, asking him a few questions about Mrs. Thor's house and her adopted daughter. He answered fluently, without lying. He honestly didn't know why Mrs. Thor's adopted daughter had died. His words were entirely true, for the demon possessing him was the real culprit behind all the mysterious deaths that had occurred over time. The 2 police officers believed him. He showed no strange behavior. They said goodbye. After the police left, Alex turned to look towards Mrs. Thor's house, his eyes turning a demonic red. Another one dead. Dark hatred pulled him into the darkness, away from the sunlight. The demon within him now manifested. It closed the door, sat down, and began the first strokes of a masterpiece of death. The painting was completed, and just then, the client who had ordered it arrived. Hearing a knock at the door, the demon, knowing it was the client, stood up and went to open it. As the door opened, the client instinctively recoiled, maintaining a distance from the person opposite him. "I'm here. Have you painted the picture I ordered?" The client finished speaking, then looked at Alex's red, bloodshot eyes with a hint of fear. "Good heavens! Are your eyes hurting? Are your eyes hurting? Why don't you wear glasses so you don't scare people?" Alex only nodded at the client's advice, saying nothing. He suddenly extended his right hand towards the client. Seeing this, the client understood and placed the money in Alex's hand. "Here's your payment, young man. Since you're done, please give me the painting. It's pitch black out tonight. Looks like heavy rain. I won't make it home dry." Alex took the money and turned to go inside. The client followed. But just as the client stepped in, the door suddenly slammed shut. The lights inside the house instantly went out. A thunderous clap echoed through the village, drowning out the agonizing screams of the client. In the dark of night, on the dark village road, Alex dragged the unfortunate client's body deep into a secluded area with dense vegetation. A pile of wood appeared from nowhere, encircling the client's cold body. Flames danced around the body. Then, with a whoosh, the fire blazed. The demon stood there, watching the body burn to ashes, then smirked. He turned and left. Returning to his house, he heard a strange noise from Mrs. Thoa's house. How could the demon not notice the sound? The demon knew Mrs. Thoa was secretly watching him through her window, and his demonic red eyes glared in that direction. Mrs. Thoa saw Alex's red eyes. Only then did she believe Master Kwang's words. "You are renting your house to a demon, sister. If you don't get rid of him quickly, your whole family and Alex himself will be in danger." Mrs. Thoa was terrified and trembled upon hearing Master Kwang. "What should I do now, Master? It's too late." "How did you know he was possessed?" "I thought he was a good person." Master Kwang didn't answer immediately. He gazed thoughtfully at the small house. Mrs. Thoa, seeing the master's gaze, looked in the same direction. Seeing nothing, she asked, "What should I do now, Master? No wonder so many things have happened since he came to the village. My daughter also suffered. I don't know if he caused it." Master Kwang then replied, "Your daughter was also harmed by the demon that possesses Alex, but he doesn't know it, because the demon is the one who does it. That's why I approached him. And I was right. During the day, the demon hides. It only comes out at night, possessing his body. Whatever it does, Alex forgets completely and doesn't remember what happened. I have a way. I hope you can help me, sister." Mrs. Thoa nodded immediately. "Of course, Master. Anything to get rid of the demon you speak of." "I'll do whatever you say." "That's good. The demon is watching us and our conversation. This makes it very uncomfortable. So you will be in danger soon. But don't worry. With me here, it can't harm you. Wear this rosary. I've blessed it. No matter how powerful the demon is, it cannot come near your house. Here, I have 2 talismans, a large one for you to stick in the middle of your main door, and the small one for you to fold and carry with you at all times. Remember, you must always carry the small talisman and the rosary to stay safe. Now, I'll go home to prepare. I'll be back tomorrow. By then, I'll have a way to exorcise it." Mrs. Thoa followed Master Kwang's instructions. After he left, she took the large talisman and stuck it on the main door. She folded the small talisman as instructed and carried it with her at all times, along with the rosary around her neck. Noticing a sound from the small house, she quickly peeked through the window. As Alex returned, she saw the demonic red eyes emanating from his face in the darkness. Her whole body trembled with fear. Master Kwang's words were true. The demon was possessing the man she had always considered good. And the master's truth about the demon possessing Alex, harming her adopted daughter, made her hatred grow by the second. Mrs. Thoa almost screamed, but the demon had detected her. She stumbled back and quickly turned away from the window. But no matter how fast she was, the demon had already discovered that she was secretly watching it. That night, the demon planned to act. With the body it possessed, killing was an easy task. But the demon was mistaken that night. It intended to go to Mrs. Thoa's house and kill her. But it wasn't as easy as the demon hoped. The main door, enchanted by Master Kwang, was now effective. The light emanating from the characters written in blood, drawn by the master, shone with a yellow light, startling the demon and forcing it to retreat. It couldn't believe the talisman possessed such great power, trapping a demon thousands of years old. Mrs. Thoa was still awake inside her house. She heard Alex approach her door, but was blocked by Master Kwang's talisman, filling her with both fear and a surge of hope, just as the master had said. Tonight, the demon would act against her, just as it had against her adopted daughter. Her heart ached even more. Although her adopted daughter had been rebellious and difficult, her innocence was always a beautiful and happy memory for Mrs. Thodata. What teenager doesn't go through a phase of stubbornness, with countless temptations and vices? Mrs. Thoa, seeing the demon dare not act, secretly rejoiced. She returned to her room and lay down. Indeed, the demon dared not approach her house all night. Mrs. Thoa sat alone until morning, when the first rooster crowed in the village, signaling a new day. Mrs. Thoa woke up. I slept so well last night. It's been so long since I've had such a good night's sleep. Before she could open the door, she heard footsteps outside. Then Alex's voice echoed, "Mrs. Tho, are you awake?" Mrs. Tho glanced at the small clock on the wall. Ah, it was still early morning. She wondered why Alex was calling her so early. Curious, Mrs. Thoa quickly went to open the door. As it opened, Alex rushed in. "Mrs. Thoa, I have something to tell you." "What is it, Alex? Why are you here so early? Tell me slowly what happened." Alex quickly poured a glass of water, then began hurriedly. "Last night I had a nightmare, Mrs. Tho. I dreamed I killed many people, but all the people I killed were evil, wicked people. But I don't know why. Thui also appeared in my dream. She looked at me with such resentful eyes. I don't understand why she looked at me like that. I was so scared. So I came here. I want to offer incense to her." Upon hearing his dream, Mrs. Thoa's expression remained calm, not overly surprised. She said casually, "You know that dreams and reality are never the same. You've been thinking too much lately. That's why you dreamed like that." Mrs. Thoa spoke calmly to reassure him and help him regain his composure. But in her mind, she was certain of one thing. Master Kwang's words were true. Alex was the culprit behind her adopted daughter's murder. Or more precisely, the demon within him was the real perpetrator. And soon, Master Kwang would help her and the other victims of the demon. The evil spirit within him must pay for its sins. Hearing Mrs. Thoa, Alex felt much less scared. Last night, the people killed by the demon within him came back to him in his faint memories, which the demon had not yet completely controlled. He fell silent. Mrs. Thoa then asked, "How do you feel?" He replied, "I feel strange, but I don't really know where. Lately, every time I wake up after a night's sleep, I feel so tired. I don't know what illness I have, Mrs. Thoa. Should I see a doctor? I know a very good healer. He can cure any illness. If you agree, I'll take you to him." He nodded in agreement immediately. For he was right. Lately, he couldn't remember when. Every morning he woke up feeling clearly exhausted, and his memory truly seemed to have a problem. He couldn't remember what he did from late afternoon to night the day before. He only remembered what he did from morning until sunset. He didn't know that, when the sun set, the demon within him possessed his body. Then, what are we waiting for? Thank you very much, Mrs. Stoa. Mrs. Stoa, seeing him agree, decided to take him to Master Kwang. She knew that Alex, the human, was still salvageable, unlike those who had lost all humanity. That afternoon, she led him to Master Kwang. Hearing the knock at the door, the master cheerfully came to open it. Seeing Master Kwang, Alex was startled, for the man before him was none other than the old man he had chased away just yesterday. How can this be? It's him. His eyes widened and he stammered. It's good that you agreed to come here to see me, young man. Otherwise, I might not have been able to save your life. You said you could cure many illnesses. Master Kwang nodded. Of course I can cure any illness. Please, come in. Master Kwang's house was simply designed in the old village architectural style. All the villagers' houses were built this way, little changing over time. In the spacious front yard, the master had many ornamental plants, creating a refreshing sight. Behind the house, he grew various medicinal herbs in a garden. In the center of the house was a small table and chairs, usually used for receiving guests. Pointing to a chair, Master Kwang said, Mrs. Thoa, and you, please sit. Mrs. Thoa sat down. Seeing this, Alex also sat. Master Kwang said, Now, let me examine you. Master Kwang observed Alex's face carefully, then continued. Your memory has been deteriorating lately, hasn't it? You usually remember things from waking up until late afternoon, right? But what you do from evening until the next morning, you don't remember at all. Alex nodded vigorously. Master Kwang continued. Not only your memory is problematic, but your health as well. Every morning you wake up, you feel exhausted, don't you? Yes, that's right, sir. You are truly brilliant. You've diagnosed my illness correctly. Master Kwang then said, Do you remember what happened the day I met you and you chased me away? Alex nodded, but said nothing. Master Kwang continued, Your illness is caused by an evil spirit lurking within you. Do you want to return to normal? Or should I help you? If we don't expel that evil spirit now, I fear not only your life, but also the lives of those around you will be in danger. Alex then said, The lives of those around me? Do you mean I will kill them and then not remember anything? Master Kwang explained, It's not you who kills them, but the demon inside you. You are just a tool for the demon to easily commit its acts. If this situation prolongs, the demon will eventually kill you too. And then it will be too late. No one will be able to save you. Mrs. Stoa then said, Master, I brought him here. Please help him. As Mrs. Stoa called the old man master, Alex couldn't hide his surprise. So, this old man not only cured illnesses, but was also an exorcist. The old man he had so rudely chased away earlier today was leading from one surprise to another. You're an exorcist. Can you use magic to cure evil spirits, as people say? That's right. Exorcists all have different ways of banishing evil spirits, but they all share one thing. They have different eyes from ordinary people. These eyes are what ordinary people call spiritual sight. With these eyes, one can see evil spirits, making it easier to detect and quickly destroy them. Alex looked at Master Kwang, thinking something no one could fathom. After a moment, he asked, "So what do you plan to do to help me? And is it truly that I'm possessed by a demon?" Master Kwang, knowing Alex wasn't entirely convinced of his abilities, smiled and replied, "I know you're not entirely convinced, but it's all right. Once I perform the exorcism ritual, you will believe." "All right then. Please perform the exorcism quickly," Alex said. Master Kwang then told Mrs. Thoa to close all the windows in the house. When the last window was closed, the room instantly became pitch black, visibility 0. In the darkness, Alex's eyes slowly turned red. Master Kwang then immediately asked Alex, "Won't you reveal your true form, demon? Or must I perform the ritual for you to appear?" The demon then began to manifest. Mrs. Thoa, seeing Alex's eyes turn red, was terrified. She dared not watch and moved to hide behind Master Kwang. Alex's face continued to contort, sharp fangs extending from both sides of his mouth. The demon's voice emanated from his mouth, with its fangs and long tongue protruding, terrifying Mrs. Thoa even more. Trembling, she asked Master Kwang, "Tabu, what did it just say?" Master Kwang raised a hand, stopping Mrs. Thoa, and asked her to remain silent. Master Kwang then stood up, holding an enchanted whip, and relentlessly lashed Alex. The demon, struck by the whip, writhed in agony on the floor, clawing and screaming vulgar curses at the master. Mrs. Thoa couldn't bear the demon's words or its raspy voice and covered her ears. Master Kwang didn't stop. He continued to swing the whip high, striking forcefully until the demon could no longer bear it. It transformed into a malevolent green flame flying out of Alex's body. Master Kwang then took out his sacred artifact and recited an incantation, wanting to subdue the demon into the artifact. But the demon wasn't so easily subdued by Master Kwang. The green flame flew around the house. Wherever it touched, objects would catch fire. The demon was now enraged. It wanted to escape, but the talismans pasted outside the windows prevented it. It tried to burn Master Kwang and Mrs. Thoa, wanting to burn down the entire house to escape. But the demon didn't realize that the fire would only burn for a moment before dying out. This greatly astonished the demon. It relentlessly lunged at flammable objects. But somehow they would only burn for a moment before flickering out. The demon, infuriated, glared at Mrs. Thoa and lunged at her, wanting to burn her to ashes. But with Master Kwang present, the demon wouldn't get its wish. Master Kwang took the sacred artifact in his hand, pointed it straight at the malevolent green flame, and recited a soul-reaping incantation with such force that the demon, no matter how hard it tried, found it difficult to escape. The green flame was thus sucked into the sacred artifact in Master Kwang's hand. Inside the artifact, shouts and curses, in the most vulgar language imaginable, erupted ceaselessly. Alex, who had been lying unconscious on the floor, suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. The surroundings were pitch black. He couldn't see the person opposite him. He smelled the stench of burning objects and asked, "What's happening here?" Master Kwang then replied, "The demon just came out of your body, turned into that green flame. It wanted to burn everything in this house to escape, but I subdued it. It's now inside this sacred artifact in my hand. Do you want to hear it? Master Quang held the sacred artifact before him. In the indistinct darkness, Alex extended both hands to receive the artifact from Master Quang. Inside the artifact, a familiar voice echoed. And Alex remembered that every time he heard this voice, his head would spin, his heart would race, and afterward, he would have no idea what he had done. The demon ceaselessly told Alex to open the lid of the artifact to escape, but the demon's voice inside the artifact now had no effect. Its voice could no longer make his mind lose control. Everything was useless. Only then did the demon realize that confined in the sacred artifact, its demonic power was rendered useless. So it was you! You killed Toy! You killed so many villagers! You wanted to turn me into the most wicked person. A ruthless killer, Master Quang then said. Mrs. Tho, quickly open all the windows. The sunlight streamed into the room, and the entire house immediately brightened. Alex blinked, then almost dropped the sacred artifact in his hand. But luckily, Master Quang, quick-eyed, quickly stooped to catch it, preventing the artifact from falling and allowing the demon to escape. Master Quang told Alex that this demon had followed him for many years, then asked what had happened in his past. Alex recounted his past chronologically. After hearing his story, Master Quang sighed. How pitiful. You are not evil. It was just the demon possessing you, making you commit many wicked deeds you didn't want to. It easily possessed your body because your mind was filled with only negative thoughts. Once you were filled with negative thoughts, the demon achieved its goal easily, without any obstacles. Now you are back to being a normal person. From today on, the demon can no longer manipulate you into doing evil. On a related note, I should also tell you that it was this demon that instigated you to kill Mrs. Thoa's adopted daughter. But you cannot be blamed, for ultimately, you were just a victim of an evil force. Alex knelt before Mrs. Eeyore, Nai, Hell, Thoa, who was still reeling from fear from what had just happened. Seeing him kneel, crying and begging for forgiveness, Mrs. Thoa's heart gradually softened. Witnessing Master Quang expel the demon from Alex had changed her perception of him. She was no longer angry with him, but with the demon that had killed her child. As for Alex, he was merely manipulated by that wicked demon. Get up, Alex. I'm not angry with you. The demon is the one to be angry with, to blame. Alex knew he had been manipulated by the demon, but the people who died by his hands were not few. If he now claimed it was the demon's doing, the police might not believe him. He decided to turn himself in and confess that the mysterious deaths in the village were caused by his hands. He was transferred to a temporary detention center for 9 days before his trial. He left the village on a rainy, windy day. Before he left, he wanted to visit the grave of the girl he deeply loved. The police granted his wish. Mrs. Thoa knew his crime was unlikely to escape the death sentence. He didn't explain, didn't mention the demon's manipulation in his statement to the police. He silently took all the blame upon himself, for even if he had told them, who would believe that a demon could use a person to commit so many evil deeds? After he left, the village returned to peaceful days. However, The villagers, who had always hated Alex, now believed he was the one who brought peace to the village. Since he arrived, the wealthy, ruthless thugs who had oppressed the poor had all met their demise. But others, the weak-minded, still believed he was the root of misfortune, and that peace was only restored to the villagers after he left. These conflicting thoughts about him became a legend, carried from that distant place to the village, even to this day. Whenever someone in the village accidentally brings up the past, mentioning Alex, the demon-possessed man. On a winter day, in the detention cell, he lay there, hand propped on his forehead, reflecting on his life, and the wicked deeds the demon had made him commit. Had his life truly descended into an abyss of sin from the very first days, his mind was possessed by the demon. If he had known sooner, his life wouldn't have become so tragic. He lay there, trembling, not from fear of death, but from anger at himself for not being strong enough to resist the demon's commands. He sat up, took out a razor blade he had hidden in his clothes, and asked a cellmate for water. He would do what he believed was right at that moment. He wanted to die, to reunite with his loved ones, even though, when they were alive, they hadn't treated him as well as he had hoped. He heard gusts of wind blowing from outside the single window in the corner of the wall. He heard other inmates in the next cell singing songs about life. He put the razor blade to his neck, gritted his teeth, and pressed it down, making a long cut. Blood gushed out. He lay back down, his eyes slowly closing. He felt no pain. Instead, he felt a strange happiness, hoping to reunite with the girl he loved as he left this world for another, a world not meant for the living. He saw someone standing there, waiting for him. It was Tui, Mrs. Thoa's adopted daughter. She reached out, calling to him. He saw a radiant smile on her face, different from the resentful one he had dreamed of before. He smiled, his eyes slowly closing, ending his life from the moment of that faint, warm touch. Wanda, Alisti, Anlagan, at San.